Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining today's NPG Connections Reform webinar. I'll start with some housekeeping. So today's session is being recorded and it will be circulated after the webinar. In the Q&A, so can you use the chat button and also raise your hand if you want to ask questions. Please don't post or ask anything commercially sensitive, as all attendees will hear and see your comments. We're going to try and answer as many questions as possible. So during this Q&A session, starting with those that were pre-submitted in advance of the webinar. So who's on the webinar today? I'm Luke Scott. I'm the Customer Service Manager in the Transmission Interface team, and I'm joined by a lot of colleagues who will be supporting throughout the Q&As. So we've got Martin Hardwick, Haida Hussain from the Transmission Interface team, Elliot, who's our Connections Input Service Lead, Catherine, Namalia and John Sue, who are Connection Pipeline Engineers, and Navdeep Gora, Transmission Interface Engineer. So plenty of people on to support with your questions. So today's agenda, this is the 7th of a series of drop-ins that we've done, since the evidence window is opened. And we're calling these explainers because what they do is they provide a lens and a focus on key topics in connections reform. So please ask any questions you have regarding your scheme or queries that you've come up to help you get these submissions completed and gain clarity on what needs to be submitted and what that detail is. So first slide, so with 2 slides before we open the Q&A because we really want to hear your questions. So first one is, you may have received or seen the external communication sent out by NISO yesterday. So due to problems that they've had initially with the launch of their portal, they thanked all the customers for helping them to get those problems rectified. And they thanked them for your engagement. So in terms of what's been submitted, they've had 779 out of 1,800 projects have successfully submitted their evidence. And they're encouraging customers to still submit. So the original timeline and key dates for the submission window was for transmission, it opened on the 8th of July and closed on the 29th of July. And as you know, at distribution, we opened earlier. We opened on the 20th of May, and we were due to close at the same time as transmission on the 29th of July. But due to those problems that customers have experienced with the NISO portal, from the 11th, so the 11th of August, they're saying that there'll be a 10 working day, at least a 10 working day notice period for customers to extend the window, for customers to start making their submissions. And I guess for us, in terms of DNOs, we're all aligned with that window. So we won't be closing on the 29th. We'll be closing the same date as NISO. But our key message through these explainers, and has always been through these explainers, do not wait for that window to close. Get your evidence in nice and early. If you're yet to hit that completed button where you hit the submit button to submit all your evidence to us to be checked, then please do so now. So help us to help you. Get your submission in nice and early so we can provide you that feedback. Okay. So in terms of NPG submissions, we invited 355 projects to make those submissions. And out of that, we've had 98%, which is a good number. 98% have started their application on the portal. So they've accessed the portal, entered their initial details, but they're yet to hit that submission, that final submit for us to review. So just over 70 projects have hit that button. They've hit the submit button. And out of that, we've checked 93% of those. So the teams here were fully resourced and we're checking that and we're providing you with feedback. Less than half of the submissions of those ones that have been submitted are compliant. And that's the key message. Not everybody's getting this right first time. So it's really important that you make the submission while you've got this extra time, additional time by NISO extend the window out, so we can help you and provide you that feedback to make sure you get this right. So some key messages. Remember to always use the handbook, so the evidence submission handbook, before making your submission. Check what's in there. It's packed with lots of help and support and even examples on what you need to submit. And just a little message. So we've set ourselves an SLA that we're trying to withhold. It's not always possible to get a high volume spike within a day, but we're working to no greater than 5 working days to provide you with feedback to customers. And we're on track for that at the moment. Okay, so before the Q&A, before I hand over to Haida, we're just going to launch some initial polls. Again, we just want to find out from you as the customers as to why you haven't made that submission yet. Is there anything we can help to support? And we also want to know, is there any customers out there that aren't going to submit evidence and why? So on the screen, you should see the poll in there. So if we could just take a little bit of time to fill in those polls, that'd be much appreciated. Just give it a couple of more minutes. Six responses so far. I know we've got 56 people on this webinar. Can we drive it up a little bit more before we move to the next section? Yeah, it's moving up slightly. Yeah. I'll give it one more minute. Okay. Thanks to those that filled that in. Okay, Haida, over to you.
Yeah, so thanks, Luke. So I'm to kick off the question and answer section. So please use the chat function or raise your hand to ask a question. We'll try and answer as many questions as possible during the session, starting with those that were submitted in advance of today's webinar. If we run out of time or we can't answer your question, we'll follow up with you individually. And while we're answering the questions during the webinar, the topic's complexity may lead to misunderstandings. Therefore, the formal written responses to the Q&A sent out after the webinar are the MPG official answers. Next slide, please, Luke. So to kick off the pre-submitted questions, the first question is, what level of accuracy is required for the scale on the original red line boundary? And the answer to that is that the red line boundary should be accurate and reflect the extent of your land rights. Please refer to the evidence handbook for detailed guidance. I'll pass over to Martin for the next question.
Thank you. Yeah, we're taking it in turns to cover off some of these questions. So the next one, question 2 on here is, the portal asks for tech transmission entry capacity per technology. For hybrid schemes with shared connection points, how should this be entered? And the answer is you can enter the export capacity for each technology in line with your existing agreement. NESO will ensure the correct overall tech is reflected in the submission, but please be aware that the entered tech cannot be higher than the installed capacity. So we go to Nav for the next question.
Hello, everyone. So I think one of the customers are acquiring a project. So basically, they're asking, how can we confirm the readiness of declaration responses, evidence submitted, whether it's passed NPG checks, and if it's remain protected. So the answer is basically all project details remain with the contracted party until formal change of ownership is completed. Once transferred, the new party will have a full access. Next one, either.
Yeah, so next question is, our development sales are market driven. How can we understand power availability and timing to meet customer demand? The answer to that is the entire industry is aligned in awaiting clarity post-reform. Once the queue is reformed, more definitive information on power availability and connection timelines will be provided. And I'll pass on to Martin for question 5.
Thank you. Yeah, question 5 is about the director's signature or through the portal. So the portal didn't request an upload of the signed director's declaration. It was only a tick box and director details. Is this sufficient? And the answer is yes, it is sufficient. That's correct. By completing the tick box and entering the required details, you are confirming your agreement with the declaration statement. So now for number 6.
Yep. So with the transmission offers window extended, when can we expect revised offers? Have submissions been sent to NISO? And will we be contacted for clarification if it needed? The answer that's basically the initial target for issuing revised offers was September 1 for phase 1. However, timelines may shift depending on how long NISO keeps the evidence portal open. So NISO may reach out for clarification if needed during their review.
Next slide, please. Thank you. So question 7 is, when will generation schemes that will not be moving forward be removed from MPG modeling to free up demand headroom on the network? And the answer to that is they will be removed once a queue has been formed by NISO. Martin for question 8.
Yeah, thank you. So if a customer is connected or energized and progressing with the G99 process, is gate 2 required or necessary? And the answer on this one is if the customer is officially connected before the gate 2 to whole queue evidence window shuts, you don't need to submit evidence. Yes, if it's connected, you don't need to submit evidence.
Question 9 is there a brief summary of gateway procedure available? So the answer is basically, please see the national guidance. The NISO handbook, evidence handbook, has been put together collaboratively by all DNOs. For the queue formation, please see the NISO connection network design methodology.
Thanks, Nav. So I think that's it for the pre-submitted questions. So if we move into the chat for some further questions. The first question is, have NISO confirmed the extension, as it just seems to say they won't tell us until the 11th of August? So I think the answer to that is we've, as Luke mentioned at the start of the webinar, so we've not got an exact date yet, but what we do know is it's going to be a minimum of 10 days of notice that will be given for the deadline. So we're still awaiting that exact date from NISO. Luke, do you want to just cover that off as well, if there's anything to add?
Yeah, no, so it's 10 days on from the 29th. So the 11th will be, there's communication going out yesterday, and there'll be more communication going out on the 11th. But it's 10 days from there. But again, like, don't wait. If you're sitting there as a customer with your evidence and you've got it ready, submit it. Like, we want to be able to provide you feedback, because I think in our slides throughout was told you that there's a high percentage getting them wrong, even if they're looking at, even with the evidence handbook out there. So get your evidence submitted, nice and easy. Even if you haven't got all of it, you can start. But preference is get it submitted to us so we can help you and provide you that feedback.
Thanks, Luke. Okay, so I'm going to pick up the next question, and I am going to come to you, I think, Luke. It's probably going to need a little bit of an explainer as the answer to this one. But when will new connection offers be based on network studies that reflect the outcomes of CMP 435? I'm adding a 4 there. In other words, when will capacity be released and made available to new applicants?
So when the queue's formed, so after the customers have submitted all their evidence, the queue will then get formed by NISO to say who's got gate 1 or who's got gate 2. Gate 1 meaning indicative a transmission, so indicative point of connection, indicative costs, indicative location. Gate 2 meaning you've got transmission system access. Once that's been decided, it then goes through a period of where NISO and then getting TOs will start to do the remodeling based on what's been successfully met gate 2 criteria, and that's going to be a phased period. So it's starting with those that are protected, but everything's moved out. We thought this would start in around September, but because the NISO's having issues and it's moved the evidence window out, everything else has then moved out as well. So we think that will start to happen at the end of this year. So around October time, September, October for the protections, and then into phase 1 thereafter, and then into phase 2 into 2026. So as they're doing the remodeling and issuing out the offers and customers are accepting those offers, we'll have a clear view as and when that happens of what's capacity is available.
Thanks, Luke. So now,
third question. So this refers to the second submitted question to earlier. So my existing agreement does not break down the export capacity, reachment and technology. I just have an overall export capacity detail in my agreement. So how should that be answered, Luke?
Yeah, Elliot, you want to come in there?
Yeah. So Morgan, you'll have your existing agreement. It'll give you on the front page your import and your export. Yeah. Say if you've got a solar and battery, your export might say it's 40 megawatts. But when you're applied, you'll know what you're applied for. So you might have applied for 40 megawatts of solar, to be installed on site, and 12 megawatts of battery. Yeah. So you'll know exactly what your site's capable of doing. Yeah. If you've got 40 megawatts of battery and 40 megawatts of solar, and your existing agreement says you've got 40 megawatts of export, well, you put 40 for each. Yeah. If you've got 40 of solar and 12 for battery, you put 40 for your solar and 12 for your battery. Because if you've only got 12 for your battery, it's not physically capable of doing 40 megawatts. Yeah. Does that help you, Morgan?
Yeah. That's okay. Thank you.
No worries, mate.
So the next question in the chat, as might be one for you, Luke. As per my understanding, NPG will be responsible for the mod application to NISO on behalf of the customer.
And I think this goes hand in hand with Morgan's question below as well. So we've asked for advancement in our applications to NPG. How do you guys deal with this? And for our direct NISO schemes, we have to submit an advancement mod up after we submit the gate 2 to whole queue application, but before the NISO window closes. Is this the same for you? So 2 questions in one. In your customer submission through the portal, there's an option for you to request advancement. And so if you request advancement, you put in the date that you want to achieve. So what's the date, the closest date that you can be ready? You don't need a date from NPG, in terms of our reinforcement works ending or all that kind of stuff. What we'll do is we'll take your date. If it is a case of reinforcement works go beyond that, so let's say you've currently got a date of 2033. You request for an advancement of 2027. But our NPG works, reinforcement works, won't allow that connection because it won't finish till 2028. We'll then put in our submission to NISO, the date that you want to achieve, but actually the closest achievement date would be 2029, which we would then put in that submission to NISO. In terms of the mod app, so for all the customers who've requested an advancement, there's a form that the DNOs have to fill in, provided by NISO, which we then do that for you. So as long as you've made your submission on the portal, we then make that mod up and that mod up information available to NISO through this additional spreadsheet that we'll have to fill in and send to them when the window closes. So I hope that answers both those questions. If it doesn't, please chip in. You don't have to answer in the chat. You can ask a live question or respond live.
So thanks, Luke. I'm just going to pick up what looks like it's the last question in the chat before we go to the hand-based questions. I think I'm going to come to you, Luke, because this is about when will we expect to, or when can customers expect to get project progression or statement of work offers accepted? For those offers that they accepted after December 2024, when can they get the outcomes? And will this change post Gate 2?
I think the question might, I don't know if the question's asking about those that were submitted before the NISO pause. So if you remember in the end of January, NISO put a pause on all applications made to them, and that those are the ones. So anyone that was submitted to NISO before the pause would go into the Gate 2 to whole queue window, this existing agreement window that we're in now and qualify, otherwise known as CMP 435. So existing agreement window. Those applications submitted by the DNO after the pause, the transmission pause, would then go into the first enduring window. So again, all the dates are a little bit up in the air at the moment because everything's been pushed back and it's all dependent on NISO's application window shutting, because if that moves back, everything else moves back. But the view was that the first enduring window would open the end of this year. So in Q4 sometime the end of this year. It was originally penciled in for November. Again, we subject to change. Those applications submitted to NISO after the pause They'll go into 434. And then when they go into that 434 and that first enduring window application shuts, NISO will take 3 months to do the studies, and then there'll be 3 months back to MPG, all being well with the offers. We check them and make sure they're technically competent. You'll then get your offer around 3 months within that 3 month period. So for those who are expecting to get offers out, it's as I said before, if it costs once the window closes, the queue formation happens, they'll start to study the protected schemes first. We'll get those offers in around September, October. Customers will then get them in around that time, around November time, and then they'll be phased thereafter going into 2026. I don't want to put any firm dates on at the minute because, like I said, NISO is subject to change with NISO's portal issues at the moment.
Thank you, Luke. Should we go to Nav for the last question?
Yep. So Chase has asked that will existing offers be reevaluated following a NISO queue reordering? So if not, will they be self-reviewed at gate 2? For instance, we have a project with 2 million in reinforcement works, and how and when will that be reassessed in light of the new queue structure?
I'll take that one. So, yeah, obviously we're not going to be doing any work that is unnecessary. So once we get the queue formation back from NISO and we see how the dominoes fall and we see how the thermal impact and the fault level impact on the network changes, we'll be obviously looking at those connections and see what works we need to do. Yeah. In terms of timing, obviously once we get the queue back and we understand how it's all impacted, we'll be looking to deep dive into those connections and see what needs to be done and what maybe doesn't need to be done. Yeah. And once we've done that, we'll be in touch via probably a new offer kind of process.
I just thought of that. My prediction is that it'll be minimal. We don't foresee it being a lot of remodeling or restudying we'll have to do on these projects. It'll only be a handful of schemes.
Okay, I think that's it for the questions in the chat. Does anyone want to raise a hand, ask a question? Feel free to do so.
Come on, guys, this is it. This is your last chance to start asking some questions, before this window shuts. We really want to help you, so we appreciate your questions. I think we've got one in the chat. Live.
Yep. Do you want to? Trying to unmute.
So apologies for my pronunciation. I think we've got Jing Zhao. You've got your hand up. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I just got a quick question. So when the new M4 milestone will be in fact? That 24 months is like a maximum window after the DNO acceptance and concluding M4.
Yeah, so I'll just give a bit more context on that, Jing, for the other people on the call. So for those that may not know, through the work in the ANA groups, so all networks have come together and they've reviewed the current queue management milestones. And one of the changes in there is around to the M4. So the M4 is the signing of the BCA, so the contract between the DNO and NISO. And part of that, so the responsibility of the customer is to be in it. So from distribution quotation acceptance, they have 24 months which to be in a signed position on their transmission outcome letter, which then allows the DNO to sign the BCA with NISO. So the document is due to be published. Well, it was due to be published in 12th of September, but that's now been put back slightly. We think it's going to be the beginning of October. That will only apply retrospectively to customers that achieve gate 2 through this process. So, and what it'll do is if those customers have already achieved M4, for example, it'll only apply to the next applicable milestone, which will be M1, plan and submitted, or even M2, plan and achieved. Does that answer your question, Jing Zhao?
Thanks, Luke. So just to clarify, for new projects, does that mean it will be in effect from September? Or effectively from the next application window, the gated window?
It'll apply from from when the document's published, which is likely the 1st of October or the beginning
Okay.
of October.
Thank you very much.
Jonathan, you've got your hand up.
Hi, Luke. Thanks. Just a question on advancement requests. The NISO handbook talks about if you request advancement to an earlier phase, and so like you've got a phase 2 firm date at the moment, you request advancement to phase 1 and you don't like the offer, maybe it comes with some high costs or something, and you decline it, you actually don't go back to phase 2, but you drop out the queue entirely and get a gate 1 offer. Well, that's my read of it. Is that the right interpretation, and is that the interpretation at distribution as well as at transmission?
Yeah, that's correct. So obviously, Jonathan, we're following the methodologies which is outlined in the CUSC, which is our obligation to do so. And in that methodology, that's exactly what it says. And I guess it's probably no different to today's world. So if you get issued an offer from a quotation from a DNO and you're not happy with it and you don't like it, then you no longer have that agreement, or you won't have that agreement in place.
Yeah, except it's a bit different in that if we're currently contracted and if we currently do a mod app to change our offer and we don't like it, we can decline it and we stick with our current contracted position, which isn't the case here. We actually could go to be between a rock and a hard place, accept a worse offer or drop out the queue entirely. And it's quite hard. It's quite hard to assess what the risk of doing that is. I mean, if we've got a connection in 2034, 2035, say, at the back end of phase 2, the project might not be viable. So we want to request an advancement to phase 1, but it's kind of this unknown risk of what if it's we're triggering a SGT that we weren't, or the costs are higher or something.
Yeah, so it's exactly the same as it is in today's process, in that if NISO makes an offer and NPG aren't happy with that offer, so we don't deem that technically competent, we'll challenge them on that offer to make sure it's the right offer for the customer. So that's what we do today. And sometimes that, well, in the past, that can take quite a while to get to an agreement, but we're doing it with the best interest of the customer, and that will still be the same today. But the likelihood is, from transmission, you'll either get a gate 2 offer, which means you go to go, or you get a gate 1. And the gate 1 means that it's indicative at transmission and indicative at distribution. But like you say, Jonathan, as outlined in the methodology, if you don't accept that gate 2, then you no longer have that agreement. If you have a gate 1, you have the chance to potentially go again if you feel you meet that strategic alignment, if ever you meet that strategic alignment moving forward.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan, no, because that's very helpful for other customers on the call as well. So I guess if anybody else has got a query, please ask it. No question's a stupid question. Remember, this is a complex reform. Is there any more in the chat, Haida?
Yeah, there's one more dropped into the chat, Luke. So the question is, a lot of submissions have been non-compliant. Is this because of obvious errors, or is the process extremely strict and rejected submissions for very minor petty issues? So I'd say across the board, we've seen quite a few repeat errors across the board, and we have had some that are quite major fails, that but most of them I'd say quite minor. But we are, as I said, reaching out to customers, and which is why we're encouraging customers to submit early, so it gives us the time, and we've got the resource to be able to check in advance and give feedback and try and fix the errors where possible, where there are minor issues. And again, I'd emphasize the need to look through the NISO handbook. That's gives some good detail, because we've had a lot of errors, I'd say, from the ones that I've checked with the red line boundary, for instance, and there's some good examples in the handbook, and for other sort of areas within the submission as well. I'd recommend reading through the handbook, and if there's any things that are unclear, reach out to us, and we're happy to help while we still can.
I'll just add on Hyder's point. I think it's fair to say a lot of those sort of errors that have been flagged up and that have constituted initial failures where we've reached out to the customers, they could have been avoided had the handbook, been followed to the T. So it just stress the importance of using that handbook to get your submission as best you can before you send it through.
That's it in the chat, Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan.
I'll go again if no one else has got one. Thanks,
Jonathan. Please do.
This is sort of related. It's not directly related to the K2 submission itself, but ENA was sort of consulting or had that webinar about changing the queue management guidelines, and I was expecting that was going to be the updated guidance was going to be released in July. I haven't seen that. I was just wondering if you'd heard anything, because there's some stuff in there that was proposed, like an obligation to submit planning applications within 2 months of accepting an offer. So I assume that would apply if that rule came in. It would apply to within 2 months of your accepting your Gate 2 offer.
Yeah, Jonathan, you might have been multitasking because Zheng Zhao just asked the same question about the queue management. So queue management milestone was initially July, and then it was going to be September. But because of the changes with NISO moving out the evidence window, we think it's going to be more the early October, and those will go live from publication of that document in early October. There's, in terms of the M1 submitting planning, it's saying it's 2 months. The idea being is that all of reform is about customers being ready. So you're not applying in a DNO to then start and make a development. You've already thought out this development, and it's already advancing. You've had your conversations. You've got to have a heads of terms as a minimum. So you've got to have had a conversation with a landowner and got some sort of principal agreement in place. If not more, you've got your land rights in. But if you're looking at land to develop, you should already be looking at, is that land going to pass for planning? You should already be making those, those assumptions or having those conversations. So it's to have your planning submitted 2 months from signing your transmission, or from us signing the BCA. But it's not 2 months, it's 2 months and longer, well before your application's made your DNO, or even when you've made your application, is the idea of planning. And yes, so they will be live from October. And I'm just saying that Zheng Zhao is, they'll apply retrospectively only to those schemes that meet Gate 2. And it'll be applicable. So if you've already met that milestone, it'll move on to the next milestone that you haven't met, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, I understand that, you want the ready projects to progress. I think there's a bit of a disconnect, and it's probably been discussed on the ENA webinar and so on, that we developers generally don't want to or aren't in a position to make a lot of spend on environmental surveys and things that are required for a planning application, and may not even know the scope of those surveys before they've got a grid offer and understand the viability of the grid connection, where the point of connection is, what the connection date is, and so on. So, and if you only start those surveys and that work on receipt of the offer, you're probably not going to have your planning app ready in 2 months. I mean, there can be environmental surveys that can take a year of data to be collected, for example. So I'm just a bit skeptical that 2 months is actually possible.
It's 2 months if it doesn't have those studies, if it doesn't need batch studies or environmental studies. If those come into play, the DNO can then extend it out to give you the time needed to achieve those environmental studies, for example.
Yeah, all right. So I mean, to be honest, I still think it's very challenging, because a 5 megawatt project in 20 acres is very different to a 100 megawatt project. And small developers, we don't have in-house teams to prepare planning applications. We need to use planning consultants. We need to run tenders for those processes. The it just takes longer than 2 months to prepare a planning application. But yeah, I accept your point, and we'll work with whatever rules we're asked to work within.
Yeah, no, but just to be clear on that though, it's 2 months from the BCA. So as you said, if you're dealing with consultants, you would probably speak to the consultants first as you're looking to acquire the land to see if you can develop on it. But at the point when you have anything involved in terms of surveys, environmental surveys or bat surveys or whatever it may be, it's not then 2 months, it's then extended. So it goes out to give you that appropriate amount of time. So it's not 2 months, it'll then extend across. But yeah, I hear what you say. The later milestones, Jonathan, we've heard industry, so they're all to support you. So for example, for planning achieved and everything else, they're now including a backward facing milestone. So it calculates backwards, because we know that if you submit planning, it's valid for 3 years. But if your connection date is longer than 5 years away, then you have to keep renewing it. Well, actually, if your connection date is longer than 5 years, it's backward facing. So that's supported developers. Ocean?
Okay, thanks, Luke.
Just wanted to jump on this point. You're saying obviously surveys would gain you an extension. What evidence is going to be needed for the DNO to grant that extension? Because obviously, if you're going to do planning apps and bits and pieces like that, that might not come back within 2 months. You might not get any written confirmation from anybody in the council or anything like that to give to you guys. What would you be expecting to receive from a developer to get that extension?
Well, Ocean, just to clarify, the expectancy is it isn't just 2 months, right? So it's not 2 months to make your plan, submit for planning. It could be before your application, it could be at your application, it could be that time. But it is the evidence that the survey is being carried out.
No, not the evidence the survey is being carried out. It's so let's say you're not going to hit that 2 month planning deadline as M1 is set because you have to do 12 months of surveys. What would you require as a DNO to be able to grant that extension?
Evidence that the survey is required and that it's being carried out.
Right, but so who do you need it from? Is it like the planning committee, the council?
Do we all just not need to wait for the document to be published and see what it actually says?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I didn't know if you guys are closer to it.
I haven't seen it.
And
I haven't seen
know
it
more than we do, obviously, as developers.
I haven't seen
Amalia,
it.
do you want to come in? Or just on that last point around the evidence submitted for environmental studies and surveys?
I mean, this is actually defined in the portal that environmental studies is needed. So you can go to the portal and give the extension. If this answers your question.
And what's the evidence, though, that we would require as a DNO to know that that's happening? What evidence do we require from the developer?
I think there is a notice in the portal itself which states that an environmental study is needed, if I'm not wrong.
On the planning portal.
Yeah, in the planning portal.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. No worries. We'll wait for the document to come out and see what comes out specifically. Cheers.
Is there any other questions? Is there any in the chat, Ida?
No, no questions, no.
Raina, you put your hand up and then put it down. Is that a question?
No, it wasn't. It's just accidental.
Okay.
Is it worth just saying, Luke, that I noticed that in the poll that we did, I think there were 12 respondents with various reasons, such as waiting for planning and other reasons for not having yet submitted applications. If you know that you're one of those 12, do you have everything that you need from us? Because this is a an open opportunity to ask us anything that would help you get that submission in, because a key message from us today is don't wait, please submit. So for each one of those, granted, I understand those that are waiting for planning, but if there's any other reason, and asking a question here can help accelerate the point in time where you hit submit, then please raise it now. That's what we're here for.
I guess don't wait till that last minute. So if you're waiting for planning, don't wait till the last day for that plan to come in, because if it doesn't and it comes in 2 days after, then it's missed the window. So then you're jeopardizing the rest of your submitted information to be able to get feedback from us from NPG, which I think is critical. Lamin?
Hi guys, good morning.
Morning.
A short question regarding to the gate 2 for the advancement. If I ask for the advancement, let's say 2029, right? And that advancement is being accepted. Now, foreseeing scenario happen, but before applying for the advancement, I don't have the, like, let's say, planning permission. And of a sudden, I got the planning permission, but because of the required procedure or financial decision or any kind of scenarios happen, and I cannot meet that 2029 connection date, would the DNO will give me some kind of amendment to that connection date to push it to 2030, or is it going to be some kind of contractual default?
So if you requested 2029,
yes,
and then you agree that you sign that transmission outcome letter for the connection date of 2029,
yes,
you'll be contracted to deliver to 2029.
Yes.
And then you'll be into the normal process where milestones apply.
Yeah.
So it's as it is today. You will have to achieve it unless there's anything that's out of the customer's control as to why you can't.
Yeah. So, but within that period, if anything that is, I can be able to demonstrate that this is beyond my control, that is fine with the variation from the DNO end, right?
So what, can I just jump in? So I mean, what'll happen, right? You get your grid offer from NESO for your transmission access, and they say, right, we're going to give you access by 2029, for instance, right? And they say, right, to do that, I'm going to build you a new line, a new SGT, and a setup breaker, right? You sign on the dotted line, and they'll start to mobilize, and they'll start to get everything ready to build that works out, yeah? You know, the DNO will also mobilize and start doing their bits and bobs. You might have some issues with your land or what have you. But everyone will still be moving, yeah? So National Grid will still be moving, and obviously you'll be liable to the charges that build up with National Grid, say if they start procurement plant or doing detailed design or running cables in the ground, yeah? So it's a moving target, really, yeah? You won't, there's no sort of like pull the plug and after a certain point you can't pull the plug and then, you know, the transformer will just go back in the cupboard, yeah? They'll have bought it in based upon your contract and your acceptance and your commitment to move that connection forward, if you see what I'm saying. Yeah?
All right. That's fine. You know, thank you very much. That is what it is.
Thanks, Tom. Jonathan?
Hi, sorry. Just a quick one on red line boundaries. So I'm aware that the red line boundary, we have to have land rights for all of the land within the red line boundary. The red line boundary can't be bigger than the option plan, for example, if we've got option agreements in place. Is it an issue if our planning application or planning consent it covers land that extends beyond the red line boundary? That might sound a bit unusual.
No, because you can build with it. So you can only build your development within that red line boundary, but you've got planning that covers the land within the red line boundary.
Yeah, as long as you've got enough land, that's the key.
On the acreage rules.
Yeah.
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 And remember, Jonathan, the key, right? You've already hit it square on the head. Yeah, is make sure that your red line boundaries within your secured land rights. Yeah, they're your secured land rights, and that's what the check's about. Have you got the land secured to build out within the area you've earmarked?
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks.
Alex?
Yeah, just to expand on that question, why is it that the red line boundary has to fit within the option land and not the other way around? So if we've got a red line boundary, let's just say for a battery, and a battery only requires, let's just say 2 acres, but the original red line boundary covers 10 acres. It's very normal to have that larger original red line boundary, but then as the project progresses, you option and secure the land where you're actually going to build it. But in the guidance, and as you just said there, it says very clearly that the red line boundary has to sit within the optioned land, not the other way around. So why is that?
So this came from NISO basically, right? So they look at it through this lens of, if you haven't got all the secured land rights for your red line boundary, they see your red line boundary as the as-built plan. So I'm going to build everywhere within this red line. Yeah, that's what they see. We know it's not true, but that's what they see, right? And then they'll say the secured land rights where you don't have enough land rights for your red line boundary. Yeah. So if any point between you applying and saying, "Oh, I've got all this land here, yeah, I can build it where I want in here," the landowners give us permission, yeah. And you realise you're only going to build a 15 megawatt battery and you don't need all that land. Well, you just say, "Oh well, I'll keep your point of supply where it is." Yeah. I only need this little bit of land here. That's going to be my new red line. Yeah. Enough land to build the battery. Point of supply stays the same. That's what you give to us, and then your secured land rights are bigger. Yeah.
So there wouldn't be a problem if our submission original red line boundary is significantly smaller than the actual the applied red line boundary.
No.
You would as long as it matched the option and land rights, you're happy with that.
Yeah, that's the key. The key is the existing policy around red line boundaries is point of supply must stay within it. Yeah. If you don't need as much land, well, you don't need as much land. Yeah, you can shrink that down to your secured land rights, and then you would have a look at what you've got left. So your secured land rights, your red line boundary, and have I got enough minimum acreage to build my battery in? Is my point of supply in it? Yes. Happy days. Yeah, that's what you would give to us, because remember NISO, they've only just adopted using the red line boundary. So when they say original red line boundary, literally is original because it's the first one they've had. Yeah, there hasn't been that much development done on that site yet. You see what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Elliot, it's worth telling them what isn't allowable, what's a disallowable change on a red line boundary.
Yeah. So if you shrink it and you leave our point of supply outside of it, yeah, then that's obviously disallowable for us, because we haven't calculated how much cable we need to get to where your new point of supply is. Yeah. Obviously we allow it within the original red line boundary. Any movement within the original, as long as it stays within the original, when you shrink it, that's okay. But if you move it outside and you're developing somewhere else, obviously that means our contract needs to change. Yeah.
And if you're changing it, the key to it is any changes have got to be agreed by non-power grid. So just make sure you speak to us, because we're here to help you. Speak to your single point of contact and make sure you have that discussion with them first. Thanks, Elliot. Morgan?
Oh, hi, yeah, thanks. Just a quick double check on option agreements. So one of the ones we need to submit to you guys has been signed in counterpart. So I was planning just to put both copies of the agreement in a single PDF, but you have to go through the whole thing and see that the signature page halfway, if you like, in the first copy is signed by one party, and then you keep going and you get the end of the second copy and it's signed by the other party. Does that make sense?
Morgan, Morgan,
Yeah.
got you. And Morgan, we're all looking forward to when you make your submission, mate. We're really looking forward. But yeah, so submit both copies. There is a place in the poll though to put a little bit of explanation as well. So if you want to put that in, exactly what you just said on where the signature is, but supply both copies.
Yeah.
We're starting to run out of time a little bit now, so we've probably got a chance for one more question. So for anybody else, if you just want to put your question into the chat, and for those that we can't answer, like we said, we'll answer them out in writing after the webinar. So Mark, go on, last one, and then we'll need to start the polls.
Okay, I just want to see whether I understand the risk points. I've got a protected scheme, in inverted commas protected, got planning and all the rest of it. But as we go through this process, clearly cost for any upgrade works is going to be a major consideration, as is time to deliver those works. And so when we stand a fighting chance of energizing, but also, if I understand it correctly, the technology type and mix in this particular zone is also going to be a consideration. Is that right?
Yeah, and so you're talking about strategic alignment and the technology that's needed in terms of megawatts per region.
Yep, so I've got a battery scheme that's ready to go, but as part of this deliberation that NESO are going to conduct, we'll get cost and time, potentially, and they may fit, but the technology type may not.
That's correct. So Mark, in the capacity action plan released by DESNZ, it's got the tables and it's very high level. It tells you the tables of what megawatts per technology is needed in the region. We are shown as oversubscribed on battery, but that's not to say that yours won't go through, because you might be one of the first in the queue.
Yep.
But yes, that's right. If you meet the readiness, so you've got your land rights and you meet the readiness criteria, and Northern Power would say yes, and we tell NESO that, and they double check it. They'll then look at to see, are you strategically aligned, and will your battery go through, yes or no? And if it's not needed in terms of, we're oversubscribed in batteries for this region, then if you're out of that, you're not one of the first in the queue, you're 4 or 5 behind and you don't reach that mega limit, it won't go through for transmission system access.
I understand, but I've also seen, at least anecdotally, that these zonal capacities have changed and moved. How fixed is that?
The latest publication from the Connection Action Plan was the latest, and I don't want to say for definite, but I will put it in the written responses. But I think the latest publication on that was March, the update on it, and that's as it is.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
Thanks everybody for the questions. Adabago, sorry, we'll not be able to take yours live because we've got 5 minutes, and I really want to be able to launch the polls, because we base these webinars on what customers needs, and we just want to make sure that we're doing everything right in terms of these webinars. So I'd really appreciate your feedback. So very shortly, Namalia will launch the polls. So if you could just take your time to submit on how valuable you think these webinars are, because if they're not, we'll not do them, and if they are, we'll do more of them. So they should be up on the screen there or in the chat. I know there's some people who are saying they can't access them. Apologies for that, but for those that can, it'll be much appreciated if you can fill those in.
Okay.
Okay, while those polls are concluding. So just a summary. For those yet to submit, please make sure you follow the rule books, i.e. the evidence handbook. Please submit, get your information in. Morgan, I'm really looking forward to you submitting. Right, because I know you're going to get everything right. And for anybody else, please make sure you submit, so we can give that feedback well ahead of this window closing. For any more information on webinars and what's going to be the next one scheduled in, you can go to our events page on Engage, which you can access by this link or on the external website. There's a NESO frequently asked questions, which has been put together by all networks. It's not just NISO. So any questions in there that you might have may already be answered. And our team are here. We're resourced. We're ready to support. And I hope you feel that you've been supported through this. If you need any information or you want to reach out to the team, please contact us at the connectionsreform@northernpowergrid.com email. So on behalf of the team, thank you very much for attending, and thanks to those who asked questions in the chat and asked them live. Thank you very much, and thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Right then.